the profit will last. What else? Less competition. How about market power? It's a big one. Any examples of a monopoly market that we can think of in real life that are existing right now? As we speak. Gotcha.
Fast food.
Fast food. Very nice. What are some of those big companies?
McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's.
At the start of this entire thing, we said that we have to treat the way we analyze firms in the oligopoly market differently. Because they know that they're so big that one action that, for instance, McDonald's does will affect Burger King and Wendy's. So when they are deciding their profit maximizing quantity, they need to make sure they consider the decisions made by Burger King and the decisions made by Wendy's. Any other industries? Yes, ma'am.
The video game industry. There's only three big ones. You got Xbox, PlayStation, Nintendo, and you got people that can come in, but every time they come in, they always fail. And then whatever Xbox does, PlayStation has to kind of follow.
Absolutely. What do we think is keeping these firms at the top?
Can't start
Which
small.
of these things?
It's hard to start small.
It's hard to start small. Barriers to entry here. Yeah, Jenny. Say again? Ownership? Is that what you said? Oh, another example. Oil industry, absolutely. So for the first two, Rico gave us the reason why we could see oligopolies in these industries, right? Barriers to entry. It's hard to start small. Stan also mentioned that when firms start in the video game industry, they tend to fail. I don't know why. Why is that happening?
Because
Acquisition.
yeah, acquisitions are big one with different companies, acquire other different companies, and they grow larger. And those three companies been there from the start, so it's like it's hard for like Google try to get like their own console and it fails because everybody cares about Xbox and PlayStation. So I guess kind of what other people say, it's kind of hard to start small in an industry that's already been large and already been established.
Marketing would also have to play a huge role in that, right? Because if you look at the camera industry, similar to the gaming industry, when you look at companies like Fujifilm or Canon, where they have been in that industry for a long time, it's if you were to start a new firm to sell the same product, you would have to spend a lot of money on marketing in order to get your product across the market.
Barriers to entry, where one of those things is establishing your voice and your brand in the industry. Absolutely.
So for the gaming also, either you already have a console that you're gonna keep, or you're not gonna start doing it.
So there's a high barrier to entry for the firm, but also for the customers. If you're an economist and you're like, okay, I feel like this is the only barrier to the success of my firm, is that customers don't want to have to pay for the gaming console since they already have one. Would it work to say, okay, then let's have a promotion where we give them the console and then we charge for the games? Would that work in this industry?
But you already have all the games that you play, like they sell them for a specific console.
Wouldn't it be like ownership of key input? Because like those gaming consoles make their own games too.
Right? So we see that there's this barrier here. And we're like, okay, we can overcome that. We can think of ways to overcome that. But then something else happens. Key inputs. right? So you have to think of ways to overcome this to exist in this market. Do they have patents? Those things? So, at the establishment of these firms and their growth, there were economists who realized that to ensure that profits don't get competed away, they need to put up certain naturally existing boundaries in this industry that will keep them at the top of their game.
Professor, you mentioned that oligopolies need to take into account what the other firms, what the other oligopoly firms would, what their decisions would be. Could you speak a little bit more to that?
Yeah, we're gonna see it in our calculations in this next step. So when, for instance, a monopoly is deciding on their profit maximizing quantity, right? They pick, it's not study mathematical. They choose the Q star where MR is equal to MC. We have been talking about this for most of the semester. We know that this is our profit maximizing condition. Yeah. When they're looking at marginal revenue is a derivative of total revenue with respect to Q, their Q. Their demand function includes just their Q. So this could be 300 minus Q. This Q here is for just their firm. Even if we're doing this for PC, the quantity we would be looking at would be 300 minus lowercase q, just the Q for that firm. If you remember when we did this for Xavier. Now, when we're in oligopoly though, Burger King knows that when he makes quantity decisions, whatever they decide affects McDonald's, will affect Wendy's, and whatever Wendy's does will affect them and McDonald's. So their demand function is now 300 minus the quantity from Wendy's, the quantity from Burger King, and their own quantity is left. McDonald's from McDonald's. So their total revenue function depends on not just their quantity, but on the quantity of the other big firms in their markets. We'll see mathematically. But yes, that's how it shows up. Go ahead, Jack.
Would you say they are in cahoots more often when they're like stepping on each other's toes?
So, great question. So Jack is asking, since they know that they're going to affect each other, why compete against each other? Right? Why not collude? It's a good question. We will see how it will work. Go ahead, Jenny.
I was gonna say some collusion.
Go ahead.
Is collusion illegal?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It is illegal. Yes, antitrust. But in addition to including it in the law, strictly including it in the law that we cannot collude, we will see that naturally collusion by itself is not sustainable. The main reason for that is that there is an incentive to cheat in the collusion. So if we all agree to keep our production levels low, right? If production levels are low, then there's less quantity in the market, which means there's more competition amongst consumers for that quantity, and they'll be willing to pay more for that stuff. Does that make sense? So keeping your production low increases the price of the good. Low quantity, high price, low demand. Now, if we all agree to keep quantity low, but then Wendy's decides Burger King and McDonald's are going to keep quantity low, which is going to decrease our price. But if I increase my quantity by just a little bit, I will still see this higher prices, but sell more of my stuff at the higher prices. They have an incentive to cheat. And their cheating will hurt Burger King and McDonald's because that higher quantity will decrease the price, So at that now new lower price, Burger King and McDonald's are also selling lower quantity. Total revenue sinks. That's complicated and interesting.